It happened that in the midst of the dissipations attendant upon a London winter, there appeared at the various parties a nobleman, more remarkable for his singularities than his rank. He gazed upon the mirth around him as if he could not participate therein. Those who felt this sensation of awe could not explain whence it arose, though some attributed it to his dead, grey eye. Though the common adulteress,
Lord Riven, you must meet my daughter,
could not influence even the guidance of his eyes. He was as often among those females who formed the boast of their sex from their domestic virtues.
Madam, the stones are ill-kept. Permit me.
About the same time, there came to London a young gentleman by the name of Aubrey. He was an orphan left with an only sister in the possession of great wealth by parents who died while he was yet in childhood. Left to himself by guardians, he cultivated more his imagination than his judgment. He thought that the dreams of poets were the realities of life. He was handsome, frank, and rich. For these reasons, upon entering into the gay circles, many mothers surrounded him, the daughters at the same time.
My mother insists I thank you for your remarks this evening. She says you have a most romantic turn of mind, and that your taste in poetry would shame half the gentlemen in this room. I beg you will not contradict her. She has already told 3 families you possess uncommon talents.
You do me more honor than I merit. Or your mother, rather. I had imagined such subjects of little interest in such company.
On the contrary, you scarcely speak before every face around you brightens. The girls claim your conversation is quite singular. They are persuaded you see the world exactly as the poets describe it.
I don't know the world at all. Yet I find nothing here resembling the visions of artists. The candles flicker from neglect, not spirits. The faces are cheerful, not mysterious. I'm at a loss to reconcile the two.
And you wish it otherwise? You would do well to take the party as it comes. It will make it sportive here regardless, the mothers most of all.
The party is perfectly amiable. Only, I keep expecting to find myself in a story. Not speaking of who is presented at court, or who is calling on whom, or who intends to winter in Brighton.
So you do have a poet's turn of mind. Well, I must go and dance. I wish you every success in finding your story, Mr. Aubrey.
I was looking for you.
I've been occupied, looking at something else. Have you seen who's here? Do not look abruptly. The fellow by the pillars. The pale one. He is Lord Riven. I saw him once before at a private assembly. They say he observes everything and betrays nothing. It unsettles people more than if he spoke.
Aubrey watched him, and he soon formed this object into the hero of a romance. Over the following month, he became acquainted with him. The gentleman paid him attentions, and Aubrey's presence was always recognized.
Oh, sir, what is it you see there?
A darkness most profound.
The young man gradually learnt of Lord Riven's affairs, and that he was soon to travel. Aubrey therefore resolved to call upon him, hoping at last to understand something of this singular man.
You find me amid preparations, Mr. Aubrey. To travel, that is. London grows tedious at this season. I am pleased at your calling, though it is unusual to receive a visit unconnected to debt, business, or vanity. I take it your purpose is none of these.
Forgive my intrusion. I had heard of your leaving town. I had hoped to gain some sense of the undertaking from you. My guardians have suggested I see the continent. I'm at that age. I should like very much to see something beyond England. The galleries, the cities, the life one hears of. Is this why you too now travel?
My affairs require movement. The pleasure and experience of the world are reason enough. It is common in your station. A young Englishman begins to imagine himself confined if he has not yet crossed the channel. In truth, the age expects it of you. For several generations, the tour has been thought necessary, if only to prevent the young from appearing as if they had fallen out of the skies whenever the intrigues of society are mentioned. Your guardians are wise in their advisement.
I have long hoped for such a chance, though I hardly know where to begin.
I propose, Mr. Aubrey, that you accompany me. If you wish to travel, travel with one who intends to see more than the outside of churches and palaces. The world yields very little unless one presses upon it.
Flattered by such a mark of esteem from him who apparently had nothing in common with other men, the youth gladly accepted the invitation, and in a few days they had passed the circling waters. After settling in Brussels, Aubrey found his companion was profuse in his liberality. But it was not upon the virtuous that he bestowed his alms. These were sent from the door with sneers. But when the profligate came to ask something, to allow him to wallow in his lust or to sink him still deeper in his iniquity, he was sent away with rich charity. However, Aubrey observed that all those upon whom generosity was bestowed inevitably found that there was a curse upon it, for they were all either led to the scaffold or sunk to the lowest and most abject misery. It was in Rome that letters from England reached Aubrey. His guardians wrote an alarm, revealing that Riven's vices had come to light in London. In urging Aubrey to leave him at once, the young man resolved to invent some pretext for abandoning the Lord, but in the meanwhile watch him more closely. He soon perceived that his lordship was working upon the inexperience of the daughter of a lady whose house he frequented. He was carrying on his plans in secret, but Aubrey's eye followed him.
Mr. Aubrey, one generally waits to be invited before entering a man's private room.
My lord, I must speak plainly. I have observed you these last weeks, and I know of your intended meeting tonight. The young lady has no suspicion of your purpose, and no protector but her own innocence. I will not stand by while her inexperience is used against her. So tell me what you mean to do, for I know the hour and the place you have appointed.
My intentions are as anyone like me might have upon such an occasion.
Then, do you mean to marry her? In that case, my lord, I must end our association. I shall continue no farther in your company.
As you please. Though I offer you this parting counsel. It is unwise to place yourself between a gentleman and his intentions.
Aubrey left for them, and he left Rome, but not before calling upon the mother of the young lady, informing her of all he knew, and therefore foiling the Lord's plans with his interposition. Aubrey directed his steps towards Greece, and crossing the peninsula, soon found himself at Athens. He fixed his residence in the house of a Greek, and soon occupied himself in tracing the faded records of ancient glory. Under the same roof as himself existed a being so beautiful and delicate that she might have formed the model for a painter wishing to portray on canvas the promised hope of the faithful in Muhammad's paradise. As she danced upon the plain or tripped along the mountainside, one would have thought the gazelle a poor type of her beauties. It was innocence, youth, and beauty, unaffected by crowded drawing rooms at stifling balls.
Do you hear that? Music in the hills. There must be a wedding tonight. When I was a child, my nurse would take me to the weddings in the upper village. The long procession with torches. The women singing the Mirologia toward authorial fortune. She would point to the old stones and say, "Remember their Niddelung. The dead do not always rest." She told me stories she said were older than the priests. Stories of the Vrikolakas. The dead who still walk because they have not had their fill of life. They pass among their friends as if nothing has changed. They sit at their tables, speak with familiar voices. No one knows them for what they are until the misfortune begins.
Stories a nurse tells to frighten children. Moat village superstitions.
Ask the old men here, Mr. Aubrey. They still speak of the one they found. A neighbor died, a recluse, and when they opened his grave, the body was warm. The nails grown long. The skin pale, but on its lips, the color scarlet. We keep watch for the signs. Children found faint with the blood drawn from their hearts. Brides who fall sick the night before marriage. The flocks refusing to graze near the place where the creature sleeps. You should not laugh at these things.
I assure you, Ianthe, I mean no disrespect to your traditions.
You may think these only tales, but our mountains remember what London does not.
Aubrey grew close to Ianthe, and while he ridiculed the idea of a young Englishman marrying an uneducated Greek girl, he found himself more and more attached. When Aubrey determined to proceed upon one of his antiquarian excursions, she appealed to her parents on the subject of vampires. When they heard the name of the place he intended to visit, they all at once begged of him not to return at night, as he must necessarily pass through a wood which they described as the resort of the vampires in their nocturnal orgies. Aubrey made light of their representations. When he was about to depart, Ianthe came to the side of his horse and earnestly begged of him to return before night, which he promised, and Aubrey set off upon his excursion unattended. He became, however, so occupied in his research that he did not perceive that daylight would soon end, nor did he observe the dark mass gathering upon the horizon. He at last determined to make up by speed for his delay, but it was too late. The sun set, night began, and the storm was above. Finally, he stopped near a hovel that hardly lifted itself up from the masses of dead leaves and brushwood. Dismounting, he approached, hoping to find some guide to the town or shelter from the storm.
Who is there?
I'm getting baffled.
Vrikolakas! What has happened? The woman. A woman. She cried out. You must look for her.
A vampire.
No. No, it cannot be. Ianthe, why did you follow me? Oh God. What evil have I brought to you?
Upon this dreadful catastrophe, Aubrey was seized with the most violent fever.
I'm getting baffled. He awakes.
No. Stay back. You were there, I saw.
Be still, Aubrey. You're safe. You have been ill. Gravely so. Your mind has wandered quite cruelly.
How are you here? How long have I been? How long since?
Several weeks. The fever held you fast. At times you knew no one. At others you spoke names. Her name, again and again. I arrived recently in Athens and heard of what had befallen you, and of the young woman. I cannot pretend I did not feel myself concerned in it. Our parting was ill-judged, Aubrey. I regret my conduct, and the temper in which we separated. I ought to have looked out for you. I was careless when I should have been attentive. Whatever followed our parting, I am sincerely grieved by it. You are young, Aubrey, unequipped to be thrown into these scenes alone. If you will permit it, I would now do what I should have done from the first. See you safely through what remains of your tour.
And I cannot continue the tour. I cannot endure to be alone with my thoughts.
You will not be alone.
His lordship seemed quite changed. He no longer appeared that apathetic being who had so astonished Aubrey. During the last stage of the invalid's recovery, Aubrey proposed that they should visit those parts of Greece neither had yet seen. They traveled in every direction and sought every spot to which a recollection could be attached. They heard much of robbers, but they would slight these reports, which they imagined were only the invention of individuals. On one occasion, they traveled with only a few guards, and when entering a narrow defile with large masses of rock, they were startled by the whistling of bullets close to their heads, and by the echoed report of several guns. Abandoned by their guards, Lord Riven and Aubrey retired behind the sheltering turn of the defile. Hardly had they gained the shelter of the rock when Aubrey found that his companion had received a shot in the shoulder.
Assist me. You may save me. You may do more than that. I mean, not my life. I heed the death of my existence as little as that of the passing day. You may save my honor. Your friend's honor.
How? Tell me how. I would do anything.
I need but little. My life ebbs apace. I cannot explain the whole. But if you would conceal all you know of me, my honor were free from stain in the world's mouth, and if my death were unknown, for some time in England I but life.
It shall not be known.
Swear by all your soul reveres, by all your nature fears. Swear that for a year and a day, you will not impart your knowledge of my crimes or death to any living being in any way. Whatever may happen or whatever you may see.
I swear.
And Riven breathed no more. Aubrey retired to rest, but did not sleep. When he remembered his oath, a cold shivering came over him. In the morning, he returned where he had left the corpse, but he was met and informed that the body was no longer there. Astonished, he found no trace of either the corpse or the clothes. His mind was bewildered in conjectures. After arranging those effects he had with him belonging to Lord Riven, he resolved to leave, weary of such terrible misfortunes. On his way home, at Rome, his first inquiries were concerning the lady he had attempted to snatch from Lord Riven's seductive arts. Her parents were in distress, and she had not been heard of since the departure of his lordship. Aubrey's mind broken, he became morose and silent. A breeze soon wafted him to the English shores. He hastened to the mansion of his fathers. And there, for a moment, appeared to lose in the embraces and caresses of his sister all memory of the past. If she before, by her infantine caresses, had gained his affection, now that the woman began to appear, she was still more attaching as a companion. When alone, her face was never brightened by the smile of joy. But when her brother breathed to her his affection, and would, in her presence, forget those griefs she knew destroyed his rest, who would have exchanged her smile for that of the voluptuary? She was yet only 18, and had not been presented to the world. It was now resolved that the next drawing room should be the epoch of her entry into the busy scene. Aubrey would rather have fed upon the melancholy which overpowered him, but he determined to sacrifice his own comfort to the protection of his sister. The crowd was excessive. While Aubrey was standing in a corner by himself, heedless of all around him, he felt himself suddenly seized.
Remember your oath.
Lord Riven again before him. He could not believe it possible. The dead rise again. A missing corpse. His oath. Seizing his sister's arm, he forced her towards the street. She entreated him to explain to her what had caused his abrupt conduct. He only uttered a few words, and those terrified her. Was he then to allow this monster to roam amidst all he held dear, and not avert its progress? His very sister might have been touched by him. But even if he were to break his oath and disclose his suspicions, who would believe him? For days he remained in this state, shut up in his room. He saw no one, and ate only when his sister came. His haggard and suspicious looks were so striking, the guardians thought proper to engage a physician to reside in the house and take constant care of him. This lasted many months, when upon the last day of the year, one of his guardians began to converse with his physician.
It is a cruel circumstance that his sister should be wed tomorrow while he lies thus.
Wed? Tomorrow? To whom? Let me see my sister. My dear sister, sit with me. I am feeling more myself.
I have prayed for this hour.
I hear congratulations are due. I would not have missed your happiness.
Is it not wonderful? Do you think I shall make a winsome bride?
The most resplendent. Tell me, who is this felicitous gentleman? The envy of half the town, I imagine.
Brother, what is the matter?
You must not marry that man. Swear it to me. By our parents' memory, swear you will not see him again.
You terrify me. Do you know my intended? Why do you speak so wildly?
He... hit. I cannot.
Heed him not, it is the brain fever. We must leave him to rest.
The night passed without rest. And as midnight drew near, the hour which was to conclude the period of his restraint, Aubrey rose from his bed, resolved that at the first moment of his oath's expiration he would reveal all he knew.
Remember. Your oath. If not my bride today, your sister is dishonored. Women are frail.
My sister, go. Lord Riven is no man. He is not of the living. He is...
Go see to Miss Aubrey.